And so when you're looking at Shannon Sharpe and what's going on with he and ESPN and why he's trying to negotiate his way out, he doesn't want to quit.
You want that check.
He wants ESPN to have to fire him without cause so that he can get some of that money that ESPN owes him. I imagine they probably signed him to a pretty substantial contract, and then he can take that money and dole it out to his accusers, quiet everything down, so that he can then Club Shay Shay and the corporations and advertisers that support Club Shay Shay can all put the blinders back on and say all these accusations about Shannon. He just had a run of bad luck. Damn. These are just women out to exploit Shannon Sharpe. He's done nothing. Shannon Sharpe is an angel. Everybody can put their blinders back on and they can get back to business as usual.
Jason Whitlock reacts to Shannon Sharpe stepping away from ESPN. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
And no one has been told on themselves better than Shannon Sharpe. And he's been doing it for years in plain sight. Your idolatry, your racial idolatry, your just idolatry of just idols and icons, and your idolatry of money. Oh, Shannon Sharpe's rich, and he's making all this money on YouTube. I must follow him, and I must defend him because he's important to the culture. Dude's a fraud, and it's now being exposed.
Yeah, at the end of the day, man, it's a bad look for Shannon Sharpe. A lot of stuff going on in the media, a lot of stuff going on with that lawsuit, and now he's stepping away at ESPN. So yeah, even though I want him to be innocent, want him to proclaim his innocence, just because I don't like accusers just randomly filing false claims on people, but he has to be held accountable. Got to look in the mirror, know how you rolling out there, and if you're moving incorrectly, you got to fix that. So if you 54 and you going after a 19-year-old, things may be cool at first, but a lot of finesses are going on right now. So Shannon Sharpe, he messed up. Don't know what's going on in this day and age, and he got finessed. That's just what it is. So $10 million wasn't enough to settle it. He may have to end up paying more with his career.
And those of you that have run up behind him and defended him at every turn, you look foolish.
Yeah, I did a little bit.
The story of Snowshed, the new O.J. Simpson.
Nah.
This all could have been avoided. Shannon Sharpe yesterday cut and pasted a statement that someone wrote for him.
ChatGPT.
Explaining why he's walking away from or stepping away from ESPN. And people, he's stepping away before they fire him, or he said this is a smart move. Let me read the statement that he cut and pasted. Someone texted it to him, one of it, and he rushed to Twitter to put it out. My statement is found here. It's unbelievable. My statement, and this is the truth. The relationship in question was 100% consensual. He's talking about the young girl, Gabby, or Carly, I think, on OnlyFans, that has accused him of choking her. At this juncture, I'm electing to step aside temporarily from my ESPN duties. I will be devoting this time to my family and responding and dealing with these false and disruptive allegations set against me. I plan to return to ESPN at the start of the NFL preseason. I sincerely appreciate the overwhelming and ongoing support I have received from my family, fans, friends, and colleagues. Shannon Sharpe.
Good luck with returning when you want to return, Shannon. If all the news is coming out now and it looks bad, think about what's going to happen when they start releasing more stuff, when you go to trial, when you try to, proclaim your innocence and try to countersue. You got to air out everything. So what we seen now is just a sneak preview. It's going to get more messier. So I don't think it's going to get better for Shannon Sharpe at ESPN. And I don't think other platforms will really want him on there right now. So as far as ESPN and Disney, it could be a wrap for him. But hopefully he doesn't lose his sponsorships with Nightcap and Club Shay Shay. That's where he's going to be in a world of trouble financially.
That's the statement. Here's my read on the statement.
Here we go.
I could be wrong, but I tend to think I'm right here. Shannon Sharpe and ESPN are in a negotiation about his exit. And this is how these things play out. No. If Shannon Sharpe quits, whatever that contract he signed with ESPN in the past 6 months to a year, if he quits, he surrenders all that money. If ESPN can fire him for cause, he surrenders all that money that's on paper from ESPN. And so Shannon Sharpe, trust me, the New York Post published a story today about this Michelle Bundy, one of Shannon Sharpe's ex-girlfriends, who has been saying for years that he attacked her, strangled her, threatened her, the horrifying, all this other stuff. Story about her. Front Office Sports yesterday reported the story that I have been telling you about, that when Shannon Sharpe was at FS1, Freak Sports 1, and during the time that I was there, Front Office Sports has reported the story about the young, I believe the woman was 24, 25-ish, white girl, that my understanding, she was involved in a consensual relationship with Shannon Sharpe. This is my understanding. I was there at the time, heard this story in real time. It was the talk all throughout FS1. Shannon Sharpe and the production assistant that claimed Shannon Sharpe strangled her inside the Fox Sports studios.
Again, Shannon Sharpe saying he's stepping away. It makes sense to where this is a negotiation tactic to get out his deal. If ESPN were to fire him, he gets that money. If he quits, he doesn't get any money. So now you got the meeting of the minds. How are we going to get out this contract? Can we do a buyout? I don't know how much money Shannon is making, but whatever it is, he's going to need it to pay his lawyer fees. I already know those lawyer fees per hour, probably in the thousands. And this may go on for many weeks and months, possibly the rest of this year, trying to see what he can do to not pay this individual any money and to try to countersue. So this type of stuff ain't free. And then if you're Shannon Sharpe, major celebrity, you're going to have to cut that check with that lawyer and his team. So he really wants to get that money as much as he can in that buyout. So it makes sense by him stepping away, them allowing him to step away and see what they can do as far as this contract.
Not the actual show studios, but in the building, the work area. And eventually, I think they moved this woman away from that show and gave her a different job. But everybody at FS1 knew this story. Front Office Sports, and so this had to be 2018, 2019. Everybody talking about this story. Front Office Sports is reporting that Fox Sports and Shannon Sharpe reached a financial settlement with this young woman. Similar claims as the current woman.
Yeah, this is where Shannon Sharpe messed up by doing this and going through this situation. Now they're going to air out all your dirty laundry. So stuff that you didn't want to be resurfaced, they're going to be talking about. Tony Busby, even though he may have took a L with that Jay-Z case, he's looking for a comeback. So right now, Busby is down 3-1 in the NBA Finals, Cavs versus Warriors. He going to try to make that comeback like the Cavs and try to win in 4-3. So even though Lakers may be in 5, it looks like Busby in 5 versus Shannon Sharpe.
There's a pattern here. And so when you're looking at Shannon Sharpe and what's going on with he and ESPN and why he's trying to negotiate his way out, he doesn't want to quit.
You want that check.
He wants ESPN to have to fire him without cause so that he can get some of that money that ESPN owes him. I imagine they probably signed him to a pretty substantial contract, maybe in the $4 or $5 million range. Who knows? I don't know.
I'm surprised his numbers didn't come out with that contract. Stephen A. Smith numbers came out with the 5-year, $100 million reportedly, somewhere in that ballpark. But when Shannon Sharpe signed on board with ESPN in First Take, it just said a multi-year deal, but no actual money figure was announced. So how was a money figure announced when he's looking for a $100 million podcast media deal, but no one knows how much money he's making at ESPN? Maybe that's a good thing with this case, but still, by that $100 million being put out there, Tony Busby knew, okay, let's really finesse him. Let's try to get 50. We'll probably settle for 25. The 10 ain't enough, so if 10 couldn't do it and shut her up, yeah, Shannon Sharpe, he definitely going to have to spend more than that if he loses this case.
Per year. And who knows, maybe it's more than that, because he had great impact on First Take's television ratings, but he was only on there like twice a week. But regardless, Shannon Sharpe wants that money, because if he's going to survive, even in the podcast space, potential accusers. What is Tony Busby, the lawyer that represents the woman with the $50 million lawsuit? What's his pattern as it relates to Deshaun Watson, Diddy? He kicks up enough dust and enough controversy that other accusers come out of the woodwork and they all want settlements. They all want to join the lawsuit. Yep. And so Shannon Sharpe needs as much money, cash as he can get.
Yeah, basically what Tony Busby's going to do, he's going to make a 1-800-SHANNON hotline. If Shannon did something to you allegedly, let's try to pull up a story, make it make sense, and go after him. So, yeah, this may be the biggest lawsuit. Then you may have other little payouts like $1 million here, a couple $100,000 here. So it's going to look bad for Shannon Sharpe going against Tony Busby that's looking to kind of, get revenge for losing that Jay-Z situation. Tony Busby, he's out for those pockets. Be careful, Shannon.
Because he's got some settlements that he needs to put in place so that he can eventually quiet down all the conversation about him and make sure all of his accusers are financially satisfied so he can then go back to pretending like, oh, it's all a lie and rumor. I'm being extorted here. I did nothing wrong. He and ESPN are trying to negotiate their way out. ESPN likely wants to fire him with cause and say,
so they don't got to pay.
We don't owe you an additional dime. Shannon Sharpe wants them to fire him without cause so he can get, let's say they're on the hook, they got a 4-year contract, $20 million, that he can get 10, 12 million of that money in a settlement. And then he can take that money and dole it out to his accusers, quiet everything down so that he can then club Shay Shay and the corporations and advertisers that support Club Shay Shay can all put the blinders back on and say, all these accusations about Shannon, he just had a run of bad luck. These are just women out to exploit Shannon Sharpe. He's done nothing. Shannon Sharpe is an angel. Everybody can put their blinders back on and they can get back to business as usual. In my view, this is a negotiated exit. This is a tactic by Shannon Sharpe's handlers to delay and to put ESPN, hey, don't fire him, don't fire him, don't fire him with cause. They're just going back and forth. This is a delay tactic as they negotiate Shannon's exit.
Yeah, so Shannon Sharpe's in big trouble. If he gets a buyout and he's able to get a couple million to maybe settle some other things that may be brewing up, who knows, all allegations, but it makes sense. When you're dealing with these contracts, you're dealing with major corporations. When you got to deal with a buyout or firing with cause and not trying to pay out any money to your talent, that's where things, it gets a little interesting. So, yeah, by Shannon Sharpe, quote unquote, stepping away, it's just giving his team enough time to maybe work on a buyout. And again, if things are looking bad now, imagine what else is going to look bad with these random stories popping back up and things that he already settled. A lot of stuff is going to be resurfaced. If you're Tony Busby, you're going to try to make that perception look bad of Shannon Sharpe to try to see how much money you can get out of him with this current lawsuit. So we'll see what happens moving forward with Shannon Sharpe and his future with ESPN and this lawsuit